One of the more persistent confusions in modern political discussion is the failure to distinguish between vice and crime. The distinction is both clear and critical. A crime is an action that violates someone else's personal, property, or civil rights. Theft, assault, fraud, and murder are crimes because they involve an aggressor and a victim. They are coercive acts, incompatible with a society that respects individual rights. A vice, by contrast, is a behavior that others may find distasteful or morally objectionable, but that does not violate anyone else's rights. Gambling, drug use, sexual promiscuity, and profanity are often cited as vices. They may be offensive, reckless, or self-destructive, but they are not crimes in any meaningful sense of the word. No one else's life, liberty, or property is threatened. So why does the law ignore this obvious distinction? The answer lies not in logic, but in the temptation to use the power of the state to impose personal morality on others. From the Puritans to the Prohibition era and beyond, American history is loaded with attempts to enforce virtue through law. Laws against vice are incompatible with a free society. Liberty means allowing people to make choices, even foolish ones. It means tolerating behaviors we personally dislike, so long as they do not violate the rights of others. When we criminalize vice, we substitute state coercion for individual conscience. The idea that freedom can only be preserved by restricting it is an idea as illogical as it is dangerous. To legalize vice is not to endorse it. It is to recognize that freedom entails risk, and that morality must be chosen to be meaningful. A coerced virtue is no virtue at all. A man who refrains from visiting a prostitute because he fears arrest is no more virtuous than one who refrains from speaking the truth because he fears censorship. Liberty and morality are allies, not enemies. A moral society cannot be built by punishing immoral behavior that does not harm others. It must be built by persuading people to choose the good, not by threatening them into submission. We erode both liberty and morality the moment we trade persuasion for force. It is no accident that tyranny often masquerades as moral concern. History is full of regimes that justified repression in this way. The Inquisition burned heretics to save their souls. Modern authoritarians censor speech to protect people from harmful ideas. In both cases, the fractured logic is that the individual must be protected from himself. Once we grant the state the authority to decide which peaceful behaviors are permissible, there is no logical limit to its reach. Today it criminalizes drugs. Tomorrow, it's sugar. Next week, it's hateful speech. We should not be so willing to sacrifice both freedom and responsibility. If government exists to save people from themselves, then individuals are no longer independent moral agents. They are wards of the state. Vice laws often do more harm than the vices themselves. The drug war has produced mass incarceration, police militarization, and billions in wasted resources, all without eliminating drug use. Not only has it turned private voluntary behavior into a public battleground, but it also provides the funding mechanism to empower violent black market gangs and furnishes pushers with incentives to acquire new customers. Similarly, anti-prostitution laws do not prevent exploitation. They only push it underground, where it becomes more dangerous and less regulated. Gambling prohibitions spawn organized crime to fill the free market void. Censorship laws stifle debate and impose a form of thought control. In each case, the attempt to legislate morality leads to unintended consequences far worse than the original vice. A society grounded in liberty must accept that not all bad behavior can or should be outlawed. The purpose of government is not to perfect mankind, it is to protect individuals from coercion. That means preventing crime, not eradicating vice. It is the job of families, churches, schools, and civil society to do that. Those who believe otherwise should consider a simple question. If the state can imprison you for ingesting a substance, visiting a brothel, or wagering your own money, then what can't it imprison you for? Once we agree that peaceful but unpopular behavior can be punished by law, then all freedom becomes subject to the whims of the majority or the morality of the ruling class. To defend liberty, we must learn to tolerate things we dislike. That does not mean we abandon standards. It means we uphold the proper standard, that force is justified only in defense of rights, not in the enforcement of personal taste or moral opinion. Morality requires choice. A coerced saint is just another captive. Real virtue comes from within, not from the barrel of a gun, a legislative act, or a policeman. The difference between vice and crime is the difference between freedom and authoritarianism. When we ignore that distinction, sin is not the victim. Liberty is.
Can you say why America is the greatest country in the world?
Freedom and freedom. So let's keep it that way.
I think that the real job that we have that confronts us is to somehow be able to sell our fellow Americans on the moral superiority of personal liberty.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.